Hello, hello. Welcome to another episode of MashUp TV.
Yes, happy Monday, MashUp family.
Happy Monday. Happy Monday. This is also Indigenous Peoples Day.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yes, we are celebrating Indigenous Peoples Day, not Columbus Day, because
That
no,
part.
no,
That part. Because
absolutely not.
Columbus do? Let's
Absolutely
not. Don't
not.
get me started. Don't get me started.
We're just not doing it. We're just not doing it. And it's okay.
Yes,
I think we're going to keep going with this. I don't know. So Brian, doesn't look like we're like streaming on the like the mashup IG page. Should we just
no.
keep going?
We want our IG people to come on in. They already in our inbox talking about how do we see this.
It is always like every time we do this is always something that is, a little bit different on each one. So, if you are showing on Mashup page, um, Taylor, could you go in and just tell people to go and like include the link for Facebook or on YouTube on IG so people can see that because I don't want to mess up anything, especially since we have a guest and we're streaming to like 3 different platforms today. So, it's always a
But
little.
but I do see it on yours, and so
Okay.
and I'm sure
Okay.
it's on our guests as well. So you might be good to
Okay.
go.
It's on our guest page. Okay, great. So we're good. All right. Awesome. Oh, someone said that they came in from IG. So great.
Yeah.
We love it. So I'm like just happy everybody's here. So again, welcome to MashUp TV. We are happy to be here today, and we're going to get it started with a couple of our church announcements because we got to pay the bills, and we are really happy because we have a lot of different programs going on right now. One of our big programs that we're excited to be a part of is the All of Us Research Study. So if you haven't heard about this, you should see it online. There's videos and stuff of me talking to a white man online, if you've seen it. Talking to Lee Reuters about the All of Us Research Study. It is an initiative to collect um, diverse people to participate in a health research database, which is going to add to the advancements of precision medicine. So if you think about it, not all medicine works for all people.
That's
And one
right.
of the reasons for that is because most of the time when these pharmaceutical companies are developing medicines, they're only testing it on white cisgender males.
Mhm.
So in order to make the medicine more diverse and make sure that it's working for all our different bodies, we need different people to provide the health information so that they can test and make sure that the medicines are working for our different bodies because all of our bodies are set up a little bit differently.
That's right.
So me and Brian have both participated in the program. It's really easy. Basically, you go in, you like, either they get a little blood, you pee in a cup. And then you share your health information just by linking up your health records on the website. It's super easy. And there's some great research results that you can get back. You can get your ancestry results back. You can get genetic testing done. And they send that back to you for free. And then there's a lot of different ways that it will show up or you could participate in the program. So it's a fun way to do it. Um, I
And real
am
quick, we made it really easy for you to sign up and learn more information. And so if you click the link in our bio that says all of us, or go to our website, mashupnation.org, and click on all of us research, there's a sense that click here to join. Click that button. It's an easy little form that you'll fill out. You'll let us know when it's a good time for us to reach out to you. We will contact you, get you more information. And so Jerry and I, again, he said, we both participate in it because we're just not talking about it. We want to be about it. And so we contribute to research, and you can do the same thing. We believe in this program for sure.
Yes, yes, indeed, indeed.
Thank you,
So
Taylor.
thank you, Taylor. Oh, love that. So our next thing that we're going to talk about, so National Black Pride is coming up, and we're super excited about it. It is the last weekend of October, right before Halloween. So this is October 24th through 27th. There is plenty of awesome events happening. And one of the big events that's happening is our Holiness Project brunch, which we're super excited about. Is going to happen that Sunday, starting at 1 o'clock. If you all have not checked it out or going to get your tickets, please go and do that. Please now. We're doing the tickets really simple, like very cheap, only for a $10 donation, but we need you all to register ahead of time so we know how many people that we're going to feed. But it's going to be a great event. We're going to have food. There's going to be a praise team. Vision Church of Nashville is going to be doing the music. And then there's going to be a great panel discussion on spirituality and queerness, and which is kind of leading up to our conversation today. So, we're really excited about that. Please go get your tickets. It is on Eventbrite. If you search Holiness Project on Eventbrite, or just go follow the MashUp page on Eventbrite, you can find it. Please go register for it. And there's plenty of other events that's happening for Nashville Black Pride. There's the awards dinner the Friday night. Then there's going to be a disco party that Friday night, which is going to be really fun. We have live entertainment. Never Ending Nina is going to perform that night. At the awards dinner, Asian is going to be there. And Albanus Terry. And then Saturday, the vendor market. There's going to be really dope. Then there's going to be a special Sapphic hour for our film-loving people, for film people who love other film people. There's going to be a special Sapphic hour for you all starting at 2 o'clock. I don't think the tickets and stuff are available for that yet, but then that Saturday night, there's going to be a really big costume party. It's going to be dope. I'm really excited. Ari, the calf, the DJ local to Nashville, is going to be spending that night, and we got a couple live performances, so it's going to be a good time. So I hope that you all are able to join us that night too. So those are our announcements, unless Brian, you have any more, because I just talked a whole lot from you.
I'm ready to get into this convo, child.
You ready to get into the convo?
Let's get into it.
Okay. All right, so we are about to bring Dr. Marcus Red, who is my good friend, on. Well, before we bring him on, Brian, do you want to can you go through the bio, introduce the person, because his bio is long.
Listen, this is a long bio, but I'm gonna just try to give just some quick highlights. Dr. Marcus Red is the co-founder and executive director of the Rainbow Serpent. First of all, let me just put a pin there because we thank them. They sponsored our Giving Out Loud brunch last year. So these are our MashUp family, our MashUp friends, okay, from the Rainbow Serpent. But Rainbow Serpent is a nonprofit organization that celebrates Black LGBTQ culture through African traditions, arts, and new healing methods. Dr. Red has made a dance film in 2021 called Obi Boo, and if I mispronounce it, I'm so sorry. With the Primordial House, which was about a creation of a new world based on LGBTQ beliefs. LGBTO beliefs. And in 2023, he created a live performance called The Four World Ages, about different stages of human history. Ooh, I got to check that one out. Even more Red, Dr. Red has worked with the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra and created large public art projects, including sculptures, which our friend Jerry gonna show you something they did for him, and virtual reality films that focus on Black queer ancient Egyptian deities. He also curated art exhibits in cities like Atlanta, Pittsburgh, Los Angeles, Miami, and not, to top it off, Dr. Red leads spiritual retreats, teachings about African rituals and sacred art. Whoa. Go and bring Dr. Red on, child.
Dr. Red.
Let's go.
Hey, Marcus.
Hello. How are you?
Good. Hey, we're so happy to have you on. I'm so excited to have you on. So Brian read this long he's shortened it up.
I did. I said, ChatGPT, give me the short version, okay?
That's funny.
But I know Marcus is Dr. Red Marcus. You're one of my good friends. We've been knowing each other for about 8 years now. And I can say that you have been a wonderful person to be friends with, and you helped me grow in my knowledge of African spirituality and these different things and cosmologies. and I've gotten a chance to participate in some of your stuff. So, I'm really excited to have you on here today, just for you to talk about your area of study and what you're doing. So, welcome to the show.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'm happy to be here. And, this is my first Instagram Live.
Yes. Oh.
Did you do that?
Yeah. I put the is I'm figuring out new stuff every day. So we
We're growing
I'm sorry.
together.
I'm sorry, Dr. Red. I wasn't ready.
I like to do stuff and just not tell Brian because I like to get your reaction. So fine. Anyway, sorry. So Dr. Red, please, can you tell us about your work and about your organization, Rainbow Serpent?
Yeah, so I am, as you said, Brian, the co-founder and co-executive director, along with Michaela Wuna of Rainbow Serpent. So our organization is really about advancing Black LGBTQ culture through the exploration and fusion of traditional African spirituality, multimedia art, emerging tech, and innovative healing protocols. And we work across a wide variety of areas. We've produced work in film, photography, public art, installation, sculpture, virtual reality, spatial augmented reality, etc. And we're constantly looking for new venues to provide a mouthpiece for Black queer cultural and spiritual traditions. We offer artist residencies. We organize a lot of educational workshops and curated events. We also lead different kinds of spiritual retreats, sometimes week long, sometimes just a weekend. And we're cultivating a collective of artists, healers, technologists all across the United States, but also across Brazil, Romania, Nigeria, and London.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And you were just sharing with me a little bit before we came up that you're actually going to Scotland. Is it Scotland?
I know it was in Scotland about a month and a half ago, but going to Sweden on Wednesday to do a film and photography exhibition.
That's amazing. Come on, you international.
Yeah, and then heading from Sweden to Egypt.
Look, let me tell you, we are grateful that you had time in your busy schedule to come and do this. So, and I know, so Dr. Red Marcus, you've done a lot of different things. So even before Rainbow Serpent, can you share us a bit about your history before then?
Yeah, I had a couple different lives, but primarily in the academy. So I was a professor of English literature for several years. I was in the English department at Marquette University, also worked at Texas State University and University of Notre Dame. Also have been on the administrative side, was a dean of students at Berkeley's College of Natural Resources, and also worked at the University of Pittsburgh. So yeah, so I have expertise, background in Africana studies, African American studies, and actually it was as an undergrad at Harvard in African American studies where I started picking up this interest in learning about African traditions, African knowledge systems, and the influence of them throughout time. And I, decided during the pandemic that I wanted to shift and think about how to present these traditions in a more direct and embodied way, to use art as a venue to touch people on multiple levels, intellectually, spiritually, emotionally. And, things really took off in, I would say, 2021, which is when Michaela and I released our first film, The Primordial House. And, that was just a side project that we started because, we were locked in the house with nothing to do and nowhere to go. But then as that picked up steam and started to take off and we were invited to go to art museums, from North Carolina to New York, I decided to leave the academy and pursue art full time.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So you have such an incredible journey and such a very experience of different places that you've been, that you've worked at, and you are well degreed and documented, and you're published. I think it's really cool. And you're such an authority on like what you talk about. So I just wanted the people to kind of know, that you're not just shooting from your hip. So um, now your organization, Rainbow Serpent, and that's the organization that you started with Mikhail. Can you talk a little bit about Mikhail, or kind of his? Because I
Sure.
don't think you mentioned
Yeah,
Mikhail. I didn't want to just act like
of
he's not.
course.
Like, yes.
Yeah. So he's also an artist, a photographer. That's where he started. One of his first projects was called Limitless Africans, which was a documentary photography series that focused on 50 LGBTQ African immigrants, refugee seekers, or refugees and asylum seekers that he photographed across 10 different countries. And that concern with the lives of Black LGBTQ people really became something that he started to delve into more deeply, which really expanded to become the foundation of the work we did together. Also, he's known for his photography series Infinite Essence, which used these innovative engineering techniques and fluorescent body paint to think about how to transfigure Black people into these celestial vessels. He's also the president of Pittsburgh's Public Art Commission, and so he brings a wealth of experience himself across a lot of different domains. And so that just allows our combined work to have an even more powerful and extended reach.
That's incredible. Incredible. So you all have this organization called Rainbow Serpent. You talked a little bit about that and its mission, but what is the significance of like the name Rainbow Serpent?
Yeah, that's a good question. And it's a very layered name with multiple levels of symbolism embedded in it. So, on one hand, there are several of these rainbow serpent creator deity figures that you can find in a variety of traditions from around the diaspora. And you have a figure like Oshumari in the Yoruba tradition, Dambala in the Haitian Vodun tradition, Ra in ancient Egypt, and there's a few other figures you can point to. So with the name, we wanted to pay homage to these figures that are spread out throughout the diaspora and already helping us think about how we as Black queer people are connected to long histories and traditions of divinity. We know the rainbow has been taken up as a worldwide symbol for pride for LGBTQ communities. So we also wanted to think about how we are providing a place for Black LGBTQ communities to expand and thrive. Um, let's see what else. We could also think about energy centers in the body. So even let's say in the Hindu tradition, the chakras are thought of as these energy centers in the body that are visualized through the colors of the rainbow. And in that particular tradition, they also have this idea of Kundalini energy, this power that rises through these energy systems, which is imagined as a snake. So with the name Rainbow Serpent, we're thinking about traditions of power. How can queer people access power? How can we shift the energy around us?
Mm,
The rainbow is a sign that connects the earth to the sky, to the heavens. And in
mm.
many traditional African contexts, queer people were the shamans, the priests who mediated between the physical and spiritual worlds. So, I mean, I could keep going, but I mean, those are some of the ideas that are the name.
I think you touched on a whole lot. And because I've seen like the rainbow serpent and other things, and usually I know the rainbow serpent is shown eating its tail, right? So it kind of creates this circle and simplifies like a circle of life almost. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's a symbol of infinity. I mean, something that has no
Right.
beginning and no end, just like queer culture has no beginning and no end.
Mm,
I mean, even though people try to say that we're aberrations, that we are the kind of defects of culture, that we don't have a place in history or tradition, this serpent says that quite the opposite. We've always been here. We will always be here, and nothing can stop the growth and power of the culture we come from.
I love that. I love that. And even when you were talking about like the energy centers, because I've been like learning a lot about if anyone does yoga or like you learn about like chakras, it's the same thing. You talk about the chakras, and each chakra kind of has like a different color. So that's what you were like referencing to. So I mean, we could bring up those pictures, but I don't want to. We may get sidetracked. Uh, so I want to keep going. So your research really focuses on African cosmologies. So even when me and Brian were talking about this like ahead of time, we were just like, "What's a cosmology? Like what does that what is a cosmology, and what do you mean by African cosmologies?"
Yeah, so a good question. So cosmology is the study of the origin, the fate, the development of the universe, and it likes to think about the role of human life and existence within this larger matrix of the universe.
Hmm.
I think that will be my Cliff Notes version, but I would say African cosmology specifically talks about the specific knowledge systems that people of African descent have organized to think about our place in the world, how o- order comes into the world, and how we can build order in our daily lives. It's a map for understanding spiritual development. It's a way of helping us understand the connections between the physical and spiritual worlds. It's about providing a very coherent system of symbols and rituals that fuse together art, science, and religion with the purpose of helping us to expand our consciousness, with the purpose of helping us think about how to transform ourselves from human beings into divine beings. So
Hmm.
really, I would say, yeah, it's an organized, structured approach to a way of life. It's about thinking about how all of the different modes of knowledge are connected and how we can use knowledge again to elevating ourselves and connecting to our divine purpose.
Hmm. I love that.
This is a really interesting. I told Jerry before this conversation that I'm coming into this like very 101 ish. And I was doing a little reading, before just to kind of, center myself for like what I would want to ask. And it's so interesting. Like when I was reading today, I was just even thinking about, the Indigenous Peoples Day, this idea of kind of reclaiming that. Origin of people who identify as two spirits, that that was somewhere along the way got lost, and like now we're hearing more people reclaiming the two spiritness who identify as indigenous people. And so when I read the title, African Spirituality, number one, the first question I was like, well, what is African spirituality, and how and then we connected to queerness. I'm like, wow, how do we even like place that when I started thinking more about it? Well, you know, to your point about our place in history, and how it's maybe gotten lost. I am really kind of curious to like be able to have a conversation, Dr. Red, about before we came here, before we were brought here through the transatlantic slave trade. We existed, and before we existed, I'm sure there were some spiritual connections that people who were African and who are queer, or have whatever term um, was used for queer in this space. How do we reconcile spirituality, and where do we lose that, and how do we reclaim that? I know I said a lot, and Jerry, I was getting on me for saying a lot, but I just needed to get that out, and hopefully that that will give you something to kind of help me center this conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot to say in response to what you've offered. And
Mhm.
so, one, I think it's important for Black queer people to understand how deep our history is and how far back into the historical record we go. It's interesting because the first representation of a same-sex couple actually comes from ancient Egypt. From about the year 2500, we have a tomb that was the tomb of these two figures, Nyankhnum and Khnumhotep. And when you see them in the tomb, they are positioned kind of looking at each other face to face in the traditional pose of man and wife. And it's so interesting because when you read their biography, which is inscribed into the walls of the tomb, they were both manicurists. Again, not to be stereotypically queer, but our community has same. We've had we know our people. We've been around for a while, but these are figures who worked as the manicurists of the pharaoh, which was actually quite a high position. and they were in charge in managing many of the different kinds of affairs that happened in the palace. So we have basically an example of Black queerness that is over 3,000 years old. I mean, so we have a deep history um, of representation of not only ourselves but our relationships, our our status in couples, and trying to understand how to build these eternal monuments to Black queer love. I mean, and so already we've had people who are thinking about how do we eternalize, how do we memorialize, how do we give reverence to an understanding of Black queerness, and we can kind of see this understanding that stretches in many different ways throughout African culture. So I'll turn quickly to Malidoma Somé, who was a spiritualist from the Dagara tribe of Burkina Faso. He makes the argument that in his particular context, gender was not thought of as base in anatomy, but as energetic. So there's this idea that the creator themselves was androgynous, or this fusion between masculine and feminine. And because queer people could vibrate both masculine and feminine energy, we had a special, unique connection to the creator. And as such, we're tasked with being the gatekeepers, or managing these gates, these high vibrational points between the physical and the spiritual worlds for the benefit of the community. So we were the ones who were the diviners, the shamans, the healers, the people who ran the initiation sequences for the whole community. And there was an idea that queer people were not just tolerated, but actually celebrated and actually seen as having an integral part to play in furthering the life of the community itself. And if queer people were not around or were not doing their spiritual job, the whole community would collapse. So
Wow.
there's this idea that there is a spiritual function to homosexuality, to queerness, and that we have our divine role to play in maintaining culture. So there's already a difference in thinking about our divine gifts, our divine purpose as queer people, and the need that we have to develop and bring those gifts out, bring them forth. In many African traditions, you also have androgynous deities, or deities that are fluidly moving beyond the gender binary, exploding the gender binary. So in ancient Egypt specifically, you could think about a figure like Hapi, who was thought of as the embodiment of the fertility and abundance of the Nile River. And there are images of him from 1800, 2000 BC, where he's depicted as a man, but with these large breasts and a pregnant stomach. I mean, so really the first queer deity of human history, and again, several thousand years before the origin and birth of Christianity. Um, you could go to even the Dogon tribe, contemporary Mali. You have this creator figure, Amma, who again is thought of as a man, but is also described as having a womb. And all of the signs that prefigure everything in the physical universe are incubated within this womb of Amma. Amma then well, I guess from Amma emerges these 8 figures called Nomo, who are these androgynous, bisexual, self-fertilizing deities that then become the ancestors of all human beings.
Come
So
on.
again, very different ways of understanding the human self, the expansiveness of the human self, the expansiveness of identity, of gender, desire, etc. And in addition to, let's say, the androgynous deities and examples of queer couples, I mean, you also have in the ancient Egyptian context what I call queer cosmologies. So you have a text like the Book of Knowing the Evolutions of Ra, where you have a deity who generates the world through ejaculating into their own mouth and then spitting it out. I mean, well, exactly. So as opposed to, let's say, narratives where, the body is shameful, we have to cover up our nakedness, sex is wrong and dirty. We have a deity who orgasms the universe into existence, where we ourselves are the seminal emission, if you will, of deity, of the divine force that's operative in the world. So what I would argue is that in many different traditional African contexts, we have all the resources we need to build full systems that speak to the unique needs of the Black queer community, our unique gifts, and our unique purpose.
Doc, real quick, just a follow up thought from that question and your answer, and I'm just giving you my layperson's response. So if I'm completely off, ignore me. One of the first things that came to my mind was, wow, this is number one why people like Ron DeSantis and people like the governor of Tennessee want to remove books from us, so we won't continue to learn about how powerful we are. And then number two, just thinking about the whole holiness project, it made me think about the gifts that we have and that we contribute to the Black church, i.e., all the music that we contribute to the Black church. And, if we weren't present, yeah, I wouldn't have no songs to sing. Don't get me started. But it just made me, think deeper about like why we, are, why have people tried to erase us through our time when our existence has been pertinent to the creation and existence and continuation of the world to this very day. Jill, you had a thought?
Yeah, one of the things why I think this is so important and stuff, kind of considering all of that. Also, when we think about, most of Black Americans, we practice Christianity. And when you think about history and how we came to know Christianity, it's through oppression, through slavery. It was a means of controlling us. And, I feel like, people have their own, relationships and stuff with the religion, but I think it's useful and important to know like different ways that we saw God and spirituality before Christianity, before slavery, which is one of the reasons why I love this work. I love, talking about African spiritualities and how these cosmologies, these spiritualities saw queerness, because a lot of us don't accept ourselves because of Christianity, because of Western thoughts and point of views. But before then, queerness was seen more as a gift, as you have alluded to, Dr. Ed. So, I think this is like very important, especially
Yes.
as like today, as freed people from the continent of Africa that has been through several hundreds of years of colonization and assimilation. While we started talking about these things and really trying to understand, how did our ancestors see ourselves? How did our ancestors see God? And so we could really get a true sense of self.
Yeah, and I will pick up on themes from what both of you have said, the piece about DeSantis and this piece about Christianity, and also kind of take us a little bit back in historical time, well before, let's say, the transatlantic slave trade. So this question around religion and the connections between religion and social power is a really interesting one. So if you go back, let's say around 339 AD, there's a text by this Greek historian called Eusebius, and he wrote a biography called The Life of Constantine. And in that book, he was talking about how Constantine consolidated the Roman Empire through establishing Christianity as the imperial religion, as the religion of the state. And it talks about in that biography how he went about doing that. And just like DeSantis, it talks about how he erects all of these laws that forbid people from going to diviners, that made laws that prevented people from worshiping idols or like building sacred images through practicing their sacred rites. And interestingly, in this particular chapter where he goes on about Constantine's relationship to Egypt specifically, and it talks about how there were these priesthoods of effeminate men who led all of these celebrations in worship of Hapi, this kind of androgynous now river deity. And these figures were so important to the culture of ancient Egypt. It talks about how Constantine basically issued an edict that said that all of the priests should be exterminated to keep that impurity from spreading and to, again, open up a path for a certain kind of state Christian practice to take hold.
Mhm.
So really one can make the case that the consolidation of Christianity itself as an imperial religion happened through the genocide of Black queer people,
My
through
God.
the genocide and the erasure of these Black queer cultural and spiritual traditions that of course were perceived, rightly so, as a threat to a certain kind of white supremacist imperial power.
Come on.
And so a lot of the work that we try to do with Rainbow Serpent is about addressing that original cultural trauma all the way
Mm.
down to the cultural traumas we're still dealing with, including the HIV/AIDS crisis. It's the work that we do with Rainbow Serpent also is about rebuilding the effeminate priesthoods, or the priesthoods of effeminate men, or however you want to phrase it. And even still, the thing that's interesting to me about that phrase is that the writer probably didn't even understand the diversity of the people he was looking at. I mean, he says effeminate men, but that could be gay men, that could be trans women, that could be trans men, that could be lesbians. I mean, who knows who actually was consolidated or included under that umbrella. But our work is about rebuilding what a Black queer spiritual culture can be, and trying to understand and bring those traditions back in a way that make them vibrant and relevant for our contemporary audience.
Wow. Wow. Go, Jerry.
And-
I'm in deep thought right now, so go, please go.
You know, I feel like there's so much that we could talk about with this.
Yes.
And you know, I feel like it's so deep. And really kind of with this conversation, I just really wanted to give people a taste and really just open up people's minds and just kind of, you know, introduce them to the subject. Because there's no way that we can really get all the way into this within the time that we have. So, you know, I think we've done a good job of kind of breaching the subject and talking a little bit about it. And, you know, I really encourage people to go and follow Dr. Red's work, go read some other stuff. There's so many different things to kind of go to learn more about this. Dr. Red, I guess, you know, first I want to talk about, you know, some of your current, I want to go back to some of your current work. I know you just did, we were talking about Egyptian deities and how a lot of these Egyptian deities embody several different, you know, genders. And with the Egyptian deities, you did a sculpture project that you just released, and, you know, has also turned, you are like Beyonce, because you will take one project and
turn
make
it
it
into a
into
bunch.
several different things. And I see
Okay.
your work, brother. So, but yes, can you tell us a little bit
Yeah, of
about the
course.
sculpture project?
Yeah, so in May of 2024, about 5 months ago, we released a project called Mid-Science of the Gatekeepers, which is thinking about how to present a complete cosmology, a complete set of deities that queer people can use as a map to thinking about our spiritual development. So we created these 16 life-size glass sculptures of queer ancient Egyptian deities, and they represent a wide variety of archetypes that talk about the different energies that are part of all of us and that we all have to master and elevate within ourselves. So figures like Mahus, who is like this lion-headed deity of war. I see this figure Hapi that's here on the screen now, who is the figure that I was mentioning earlier, who is this fusion of masculine and feminine attributes, but who really represents the full enlightenment of the human being, the person who's able to fuse these opposites to bring these different kinds of energies together. This figure is about group unity and how do we build cultures collectively? How do we understand ways in which to join together and to affect collective progress? I know that was so. This was a sculpture that I was the model for, and Jerry was a model for another one of the sculptures for
Okay.
a figure called Serk, who is this kind of scorpion deity who represents all of the complexities of the shadow self. So all of the elements of woundedness and trauma that we carry as a figure that helps us to understand and deal with shame, suicidal ideation, toxic behaviors, jealousies, resentments, anger, all of those kinds of things that are deemed problematic and toxic within the self. It's about understanding our connection with the dead and the ancestors. And it's thinking about how do we not just stay in our woundedness, but use that hurt, that pain to become a wounded healer. It's about how do we rise from the ashes? How do we connect with the spiritual lineages and histories that we were a part of?
Yes, Jerry.
So I
Yes.
mean, I am just so amazed and like glad I was a part of this project. And you debuted these sculptures earlier this year, like you said, was in May in
Yep.
Pittsburgh, and I know it was on display there for a while. And from these sculptures, you also made a virtual reality film, correct?
Yes, called Black Star Sanctuary, which actually imagines a elevated place where large megalithic versions of these sculptures can live. And so it's a film, and it was also projected onto the four walls of the Pittsburgh Gallery Center space. So it was exhibited along with the 16 sculptures. But again, it's part of our use of new and avant-garde technologies as a mouthpiece to articulate Black queer spiritual traditions. So yeah, so we created a virtual reality environment, and then put a camera in the environment and really filmed an exploration of it.
One comment question. First comment is Jerry, we got to talk to our friends over at the Frisk Museum and figure out how to get this at the Frisk Museum, because this needs to be here ASAP. And then number two, how much do a sculpture like this cost, child? Or is it even for sale?
They are for sale. So we're selling them for about $200K a piece.
I know that's right. Okay.
Look, I praise the Lord. I
There
can't
you
even
go.
afford the sculpture of myself. That's
My
beautiful.
Lord.
Please
Well,
let
we
me
might
know
make
if
a
someone
smaller
buys the
version
sculpture of
for you,
me.
Jerry.
So what?
So we might can make a smaller version of the statue for you.
Oh, that'll be
We could do that.
amazing. That'll be amazing. Look, thank you so much, Marcus. This has been beautiful. Of course, we're going to have you again.
Yes.
I know that you are a busy man and you have been doing so many different things, but we'll definitely have to coordinate and do something again. And hopefully we can kind of create some type of mashup seminar around this subject and really get like really deep into this with our community. I'm so excited about this. We'll be talking more about African spirituality and different religions and stuff, doing the Holiness Project brunch. So if you all come out to that, Marcus won't be there on the panel, but we will have other people who will be able to speak a little bit to the subject in different ways that we've connected to African spiritualities during the modern day time. And as we go out, I'm going to show a little bit of the film that you all created on your way out. And Marcus, before we do that, just want to give you 30 seconds. Let's talk about anything you want to plug, or anything you want to, any resources you want to give our viewers before we leave.
Yeah, so I would definitely want to encourage people to go to the rainbowserpent.org to check out the other work that we're doing. You can sign up there for our newsletter, but also you can join our collective and work with us as we're still creating new projects. I'm working on a book called Rainbow Serpent Cosmology, which will go into many of these ideas in much more detail. And so I hope and look forward to coming back on the show and talking about that project once it's done. And of course, you can follow us on all the social media platforms. Rainbow Serpent Inc. on Instagram will be the best place to start.
Realize I was muted. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Marcus.
Yes.
Thank you, Brian, for doing this. We are so excited. And thank you everyone who's been watching. Have a good night.
All right, have a good one. Thanks, everybody.
Take care, y'all.